Hello, Buckeye fans. I'm Patrick Murphy, Dave Biddle here with you. We are talking Buckeyes, we are talking Rose Bowl, we're talking a rematch with Oregon, and specifically, Dave, today we'll talk defense, Ohio State's defense. After we talked to Jim Knowles and some defensive players earlier today, just got done watching a little bit of practice right here inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center.
Emphasis on a little bit.
It was not much.
A little bit that I saw, though. I don't think Oregon has any chance in this game. No, I'm kidding. We didn't see much. We saw stretching. We saw light drills.
Yes.
But it was at least good seeing they're right in there practicing right now. And it was good just seeing the Buckeyes practice, and it's so exciting. We're 5 days away. It's awesome, man.
Yes. You will have a practice report up on Bucknuts shortly, but quick, anything that you think people need to know from the, again, little bit that we saw?
Yeah, I know some people were maybe mildly concerned about Josh Fryer, even though he finished the game. Like, he banged up his ankle and stayed in there, toughed it out instead of going out. Like, he clearly was in pain, got it taped up, and came back in the game, and he looked fine out there. It wasn't like taped or anything. I didn't see anybody working on the side that surprised me. There was nobody like guys that were already banged up after the season. Even some of the walk-ons were banged up, like a Mason Maggs, were working on the side. But I didn't see anybody new working on the side. So Ohio State, despite having to play an extra game, going into this game relatively healthy, not including what happened to the offensive line during the regular season. So, and just to say it again, they're practicing indoors. No surprise. The rest of the games, all 3 games. Hopefully, there's 3 games. You're going to be playing in good weather. Yep. Outdoors at the Rose Bowl, indoors at the Cotton Bowl, indoors in Atlanta. So, yeah. And one more thing I want to point out is none of the early enrollees were practicing today. Yeah, some of them were here, but they're not practicing it. At least the one we saw. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. How crazy would it be to go out to the Rose Bowl, Southern California, and it gets cold and rainy all of a sudden? That would be the Buckeyes' luck. I don't think so. The weather is expected to be good out there. I think mid-70s, mostly sunny, so it should be fine. But yes, that's a good point. They don't need to be outside as much as they were in the build-up to the Tennessee game. All right, Dave, let's talk defense. We talked to Jim Knowles, JT Tuimoloau, Cody Simon, who am I forgetting?
Simon Hancock.
Jordan Hancock, and Ty Hamilton.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are the 4 we talked to today. It's kind of Ohio State's defensive media day before heading to the Rose Bowl. Anything in particular that stood out to you? Obviously, the main topic of conversation.
The best thing is this is the first time Jerry Emick has been on one of our podcasts. Let's go, Bucks. Jerry Emick, the best SID in the country. He's got to deal with, I'm not even joking, he's got to deal with guys like us, hard enough. He's got to deal with the largest beat in American sports. I'm not joking. New York Yankees, no. LA Lakers, no. Dallas Cowboys, no. Ohio State has the largest beat in the country. Jerry's got to deal with it. He's got to walk in the rain.
He's got to walk in the rain.
So good. It was good. You guys got a chance to see Jerry. So
obviously, the main talking point today was kind of the how do you improve on what you did out in Eugene, giving up 400 plus yards, 32 points. What did you take away? Just generally, we'll get into a little bit more specifics, but generally from hearing from those 5 guys this morning.
I'm impressed with Jim Knowles, how it would be easy for him to say certain things, well, yeah, after that game, they gave me complete control. Look what happened. But he's not going to do that, and that's just my interpretation of what happened. My opinion is that when Ryan Day said we need to re-engineer the defense after the Oregon game, now I look at Ohio State's defense, it looks a lot like what I saw looking at Oklahoma State's defense schematically, just with better players. So I was really impressed that Jim Knowles said, yeah, we had a bad night. We didn't play a good game at all. And yeah, I am confident that we've improved. And I am confident we're going to get after the quarterback. So, and that was the biggest thing, Patrick, is the first game, the big plays is what everybody talks about. And I get that. But you know what? I mean, what is hand in hand with that is there was no pressure on Gabriel. He was so comfortable. So if you knock him around a little bit, if you make him uncomfortable, that's going to limit the big plays. And, that's going to lead to maybe turnovers. It's going to lead to 3.5. So they have to make Gabriel uncomfortable. Now, if that means sacks along with that, that's great. It doesn't have to be sacks. But you've got to knock him around. You've got to make him uncomfortable because he was way too comfortable in the first matchup. They've got an excellent offensive line. They really do. I mean, they've got a young man that was not projected as a first-round pick entering the season and has had a crazy good year. And it's now a lock to be a first-rounder. They're good on both lines. I mean, Oregon is stout on the offensive line. They're stout on the defensive line. So, man, this should not be the quarterfinal. It feels like it's the national championship game, but hey, we're in for a heck of a good one.
Right. Well, that's a topic for a different day in terms of how this all
Right.
shaped up. But it does happen this way sometimes. Remember Alabama and Ohio State playing. That felt like the national championship back in 2014. But I think you hit on the two big things that came out of that game, and then were topics again today. We'll start with the pass rush. I looked back at the Pro Football Focus numbers, and it said Ohio State got, I believe, 16 pressures and 6 quarterback hits. I believe them. It doesn't feel like that, though. Like, thinking about that game, I don't remember. Those were insignificant, assuming they happened, and that's got to change in this game, right?
That shocks me. That's accurate. And I'm one of these when people are like, "Oh, PFF, who cares about?" I think PFF actually does a good job. You know, obviously they don't know every play, right? They don't know every play like what the assignment was, but these are football experts, and when they're breaking down the film, they can usually tell what the assignment was every time. No, that surprises me. I would need to see that for myself because maybe they were grading on a very, very.
And what's a pressure? I guess is kind of the question. Like if you just, like I think JT Tuamala was credited with the most. I think he had 7 or something along those lines. And it's like, well, did he beat his man, but then like never really did anything? Because there were times they got near Gabriel.
If you don't affect the quarterback, even if you affect him a little bit, you got to affect the quarterback a little bit. Or
and that's what they didn't do.
That's one of those stats that's just like so subjective.
Yes.
That's why we follow football for so long. We love stats. I don't think I've ever even really had a deep thought about that, about how the stat pressures is just like, wait, who's determining this? Who's determining what is a pressure and what is not? But yeah, I mean, I think we all know, if you're not making the quarterback uncomfortable, that's not a pressure. So, and you know what? They've done a really good job since then, but they haven't played an offense nearly this good.
Right.
So it's like, what is, and Noel's talking about this. Our friend Dan Hope asked him about this. How much of the improvement since then is you guys improving, and how much is it that, Oregon is just such a really good offense, and that's maybe why you guys struggle. And he said it's both.
Yeah.
We definitely improved. We're definitely a good defense, but they're really good. So, we're going to find out. Talk is cheap, and man, Knowles is just so impressive. The way he handled the Tennessee questions last week, saying it wasn't braggadocious. If you just read it, you would think he was bragging. Like, okay, well, people were saying, well, this up tempo is difficult, right? He's like, it's different, not difficult. I was like, damn. And then they were like, well, I mean, Tennessee does this up-tempo better than anybody. He's like, we're the best up-tempo defense in the country. We're the fastest play-calling defense in the country. I'm like, oh, boy. Backed it up.
He was right, yeah. Well, and they're going to see some of that. They'll also see a quarterback in Gabriel who kind of like, I'm just going to go with Nico, is elusive, can make some plays, and that was really all Tennessee had offensively. As you said earlier, this Oregon offensive line much better than the Tennessee defensive line, or offensive line, excuse me.
Definitely. Definitely. And they were expected to be, I was looking at the Phil Steele magazine, they were expected to be a good offensive line coming into the year. They were even better than expected. Like, I really did, because that was the thing about Oregon. They were always known as like since they became like, around 1994, when they became like, okay, Oregon's on the national scene now. It was always like, well, they are fast, they're explosive, maybe a little kind of soft in the interior, although that 94 team had a good defense, game-green defense. But overall, it was always like, okay, they're soft, they're really fast. Dan Lanning, there's no softness. And he's a really good coach. It's crazy he's only 38 years old. And, when you got guys like Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, I think Ohio State's going to be okay. Caden Curry just came out here. Probably to get a little air.
Yeah.
They're in there. It's like a sauna in there right now. So, yeah, man, I mean, this is a really good Oregon offensive line and defensive line. And now that they didn't have Jordan Burch the first game, and he'll be back this game. So, Ungalele was great the first game. They had Benson, the transfer from Michigan State's now. Everybody was projecting him as a first-round pick, Oregon's D tackle. This game will be one of the trenches, just like pretty much any football game you can think of.
You mentioned the big plays. Those pretty much in that game fell squarely on Denzel Burke's shoulders. I think everyone has heard the numbers and how much he gave up and what he was credited for and all that. Since then, he's been pretty good, I would say. But as you pointed out earlier, they haven't really faced an offense, especially a wide receiver group, other than what they face in practice, that has the speed of Oregon, which was the issue. Yeah, what do you think? What do you make of confidence today in Denzel Burke from everybody we talked to? But again, you said talk is cheap. Denzel Burke's, and not just him, all these corners, this entire secondary has to go out and get the job done much better than the first game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we talked these guys up a lot entering the year. Denzel Burke, and yes, you're right. He's played better the second half of the season, but is Penn State maybe the best offense they've gone against since? Indiana? Maybe Indiana again. And the thing about Penn State is I like their offensive line. I love their running backs, but like their receivers, like
it's Tyler Warren shit.
It's like, yeah, I love Tyler Warren. But yeah, I mean and the difference with Penn State is like they have an offensive coordinator who's good for the first time in the Franklin era, maybe like Kolonicki's actually a good offensive coordinator. But yeah, to your point, like they really haven't faced any good offenses. So I don't know for sure. Now, to be fair, Tennessee came into the game ranked 8th nationally in total offense and scoring offense. So it's not like Tennessee's offense was bad, but like Ohio State just kicked the crap out of them. So, but yeah, I mean, Oregon's a different level for sure. So won't know until we know, but I'm confident Ohio State will be better than they were last time. Will it be good enough? We shall see. I am confident in this. Ohio State's offense, Ohio State scores 31 points in this game like they did last game. Buckeyes will win this game. They're not going to give up more than 31 points in this game. I'm very confident with that. Again, can't stress it enough. Make Gabriel uncomfortable. At least break even in the turnover battle, and I love Ohio State's chances. If you win the turnover battle near Ohio State and you make Gabriel uncomfortable, I would bet Pat's car Buckeyes are going to win this game.
It's not a great one. And that's the thing, too, right? These two go together. You know, you need that pass rush to help the secondary, and you need the secondary to help the pass rush get home. We need to see more of that, obviously. I do think when you're talking Tennessee and what we saw in that game, those weren't great receivers. They got hurt. They were banged up coming into the game. Then they had 2 guys that got hurt during the game. They were already dealing with injuries. We saw Squirrel White leave the game. So
is that when Sonny just destroyed him?
Yeah. Well, it was one time when he was grabbing his leg. I don't remember what the play was. And then their other receiver, Thomas.
Is that the one that Sonny? I was surprised the kid got up. I don't know if he came back in the game, but Sonny just absolutely just killed a guy.
And then obviously you have Dylan Sampson coming to the game with a hamstring injury.
Yes, and out 2 carries?
2 carries, yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't make a difference in the win or loss, but still.
When I was watching it back, that carry right after halftime, they give him the ball, and it's just like, that's not the same player I watched when I was watching those games. So, like, it's just hard to judge. You know, great performance, great result from Ohio State's defense, and you want to see more of that, obviously, against Oregon. But you played an offense that wasn't at its best, and even at its best is mostly a run-first offense that then opens up the pass. The other topic that came up both today and with the Oregon media, the rematch. From Ohio State's standpoint, they talked about, we've seen these guys in person. We know the speed of those receivers. We know Dylan Gabriel and how elusive he can be. We've seen that offensive line. Oregon's kind of looking at it as like, we already won this game. Yes, it was at home, but that was kind of the conversation from their side. How do you feel on a rematch? I know it's hard to beat a team twice in football. We see it in the NFL sometimes. It's not often you sweep a team. But what's your take on a rematch this time?
I don't think it's a huge factor, but I think if anybody has the mental edge, given the first game, it's Ohio State.
Because of the motivation.
Because of the motivation, and because they went to Oregon, great environment, at night. They probably feel like they should have won the game, Ohio State. I would agree with that. And they lost by 1 point. So if you're Ohio State, you don't have to think like, oh, we really believe we could play with Oregon. You know you can. You know you went to their place and really should have won the game. So now on a neutral field, I imagine the Buckeyes are confident. Not overconfident. They respect Oregon. They know Oregon's very good. They saw it firsthand. And they're balanced too. Oregon has all the speed that they've had, but now as we talk about, they're good in the trenches as well. They've got a very good quarterback. I don't know if Dylan Gabriel's going to be an NFL quarterback, but he's actually a good college quarterback. But I think the revenge factor and the fact that Ohio State went to Oregon and lost by a point in a game they really should have won, I think gives Ohio State a little bit of a mental edge here. Now, stuff like that tends to go out the window quickly in the game, but I think if anything, it helps Ohio State.
What about the time off that Oregon's had versus Ohio State? He did have some time off, got healthy, but did just play a game. Do you look at that as potential rust for Oregon, or do you think, hey, they got a little bit more time off, they're more fresh?
It's interesting because they're completely healthy on this game, right? Like guys that were even when we talked to Matt Green, who does a great job for Duck Territory earlier today, our 24/7 sports site, and he's saying Oregon, even guys that were playing but were kind of banged up, like Tez Johnson and some others, it's been huge for them to have this time off. So that's good for Oregon. For Ohio State, I will say this: it's like, yeah, you'd love to have 3 weeks off and get everybody healthy, but Ohio State needed to get back out there, and they had such a great win. And it's not like you're going back out there and playing 7 days later. You still have those 10 days between games, right? 11 days, but 10 days off. And what was really good was Ohio State did have to play that extra game, but they didn't have any injuries to pop up against Tennessee.
And they were able to get a lot of guys out early.
Exactly. So I don't know where I come down on this. I don't think the break between games for either team was a big factor. Where do you come down on that?
Yeah, I think we only will decide this based on how the game goes, right? If Ohio State wins, it's like, well, they had the momentum, they were rolling. Oregon was a little rusty, especially if Ohio State comes out like they did last Saturday, 21-0, 21-7, something like that, really early, and Oregon's kind of sluggish. But if Oregon comes out and Ohio State maybe makes some mistakes and like the fumble that Quinshon Judkins had, and then he has an operation on his hand, things like that maybe he did have a bit of an injury.
Right.
So yes, it's tough to call, and I think that narrative gets written after the game every time you have this type of conversation. Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, he was the guy who made some plays against Ohio State, not huge, but was brought up again today. Cody Simon was asked about him. He's one of the better tight ends in the country, and could be an issue for Ohio State if they don't handle him correctly.
They've done a pretty good job with good tight ends the last few years. I mean, he got knocked out of the game pretty early, but even against Georgia, a guy named Brock Bowers, who's completely just
Washington was knocked out. Bowers.
Oh no, Bowers played. That's right. But they
were both really good.
They did a pretty good job. Yeah, but they did a pretty good job against him. And then you think about Michael Mayer, another Raiders tight end. Yeah, you're right. Washington was the one that got knocked out. But Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, he's really good. And Ohio State did a good job against him. So I think this defense
this year.
That's a great.
Good, not great, and had the huge stop. Denzel Burke, going back to that, huge stop, set up that goal line stand.
So yeah, I mean, I'm more concerned about the speed on the outside from Oregon and Dylan Gabriel's ability to throw that deep ball. Dylan, he's not a tall quarterback. He's 5'10". This is why I wonder if he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. But he's a heck of a college quarterback, and he's already shown that he can throw that deep ball against Ohio State. I don't know if he will. There's Jerry. What's up, Jerry?
Hi, guys.
We have Mike Bassford. Mike Bassford needs to make his debut on the podcast too.
Last player that I think we should talk about that came up today, the running back Jordan James. Again, had a pretty good game against Ohio State. I think the receivers were the talk of that game, and Dylan Gabriel. That's a guy that at this level you're going to have to stop a number of different guys, right? It's not like, hey, we need to stop 1-2 guys. Jordan James is another one.
Yeah, it's life when you're playing the number one team in the nation, right? And then Oregon's going to do the same thing. We're like, wait, we're going to slow down Jeremiah Smith, and then, wait, crap, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, well, at least I don't have any running back. Oh, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. I know these are the two best teams in the nation. It's crazy. In my opinion, it's crazy. This is the quarterfinal. But you're right. Carlos Laughlin, who was just watching in there, putting the guys through drills. He did too good of a job at Oregon, in my opinion, with this running back room. I watched Bucky Irving, the rookie. He's tearing up the NFL. You got Jordan James at Oregon doing great. So I think Carlos Laughlin left that too good of a situation. But no, really, you're right. I mean, this is why this is so much fun.
Yeah.
There's not. I can't look at Oregon's offense and be like, yeah, that sucks. No, it's like that's good, that's good, that's good, that's great, that's great, that's good.
Yeah.
They're just. I respect the hell out of them. And Dan Lanning, what a great coach. It's crazy. He's only 38, and some people are like, well, he cheated in the first game. No, he didn't. If
the loophole was there.
If you use the rules, you're within the rules. That's not cheating. And if they then have to change the rule because of something you found the loophole, that's just good coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Last thing, you and I and some of the other guys were talking about this before we went into practice. What do you expect the Rose Bowl split between the fans to be?
I give Oregon a slight edge. I'm going to go 55-45 Oregon. They've had a lot more time to plan for it. Ohio State fans are obviously thinking, we're going to save our money for the semifinals. And no, I'm kidding. I actually know some of my friends that have never been to the Rose Bowl that are going out there. Ohio State fans are going to travel well. I want to say 50-50, but something tells me Oregon will have a slight edge. That being said, I don't think that's going to play a factor at all. It's basically going to be 50-50 or 55-45 one way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Rose Bowl that used to be Big Ten, Pac-12, Pac-10, it's usually closer for the team, the Pac-12, Pac-10 team, right? But every time I think we've been out there, it's been pretty close. And I said this to you earlier, Ohio State fans were pretty irritated going to that Tennessee game. Whether they sold their tickets or decided not to come, there were a lot of them. I talked to some of them. I imagine now they are less irritated, and maybe they have some of that extra money to go out west or live out west and didn't make the trip to Columbus for that game. So I think Buckeye Nation will represent, as they always do. I mean, it won't be any sort of embarrassment there. I do think it's interesting, though, the point you made, that Oregon had more time to start planning for this. Oregon fans, it is a somewhat quick turnaround right after the holidays. So if you're trying to make a trip out west, that's not the cheapest thing to do, but I still think it'll be pretty good.
Yeah, and the idea of Oregon fan, it's a neighboring state. They just get their car and drive down there. Well, it's 15 hours from Eugene. But here's the thing, and we know this from our robust group thread that we have in Duck Territory and Bucknuts. You guys got to check this out. We have this thread. It's the Oregon site for 24/7 Sports and our site, Bucknuts on 24/7 Sports. And it's just Oregon fans and Ohio State fans. So far, we're keeping it between the rails. I don't know how. But, like, as they pointed out.
That close to the game.
Oh gosh, wait until the game starts. Oh geez, I'm gonna have to lock that thread. But like, one thing I didn't realize, it doesn't surprise me, but like 60% of Oregon alums are Californians. So not a lot of those are Northern Californians, but still not as long of a drive for a lot. So Oregon fans are going to travel well, but Ohio State always travels well. So I expect Oregon to have a slight advantage with the crowd, but it won't make a difference in the game.
I do wonder, I don't know where you find this out, I'm sure Ohio State can tell you this, like Ohio State University, but what percentage of Ohio State alumni live out in California? I bet it's a pretty good.
There's all stats for that.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of,
And then you have people that didn't go to Ohio State but grew up Ohio State fans or become Ohio, whatever it may be. So, I mean, there are plenty of Ohio State fans in Southern California as we see it in the past. So, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on as we get closer. But like you said, I think it'll be close-ish to 50-50 with probably an edge on the Oregon side. Well, thank you guys. We are going to get out of it's not even that cold. It's just a little rainy and gross. We've got some more work to do. Thank you for tuning in. I know this was not the most timely as people head home from work, but this will be on Bucknuts. If you tuned in late, you'll be able to listen to this on there. Thank you guys. Thanks, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.